That jacket. Uh, you know, wish I was coming in here after a win. It's sure a lot more fun. But it is great to be back home this week. 2 weeks on the road. Couldn't be more excited about starting ACC play. It's the White Effect. It's Lane Stadium. It's Military Appreciation Day. And it's a sellout crowd. So once again, I can't appreciate our fans enough for supporting this program, from filling those seats and rooting for these players and these coaches. So I appreciate that. It's going to be a great environment Saturday night. We're obviously, all of us, disappointed in Saturday's result. No one in this building is satisfied with the start to the season. But we own it, and we're committed to getting better. We always are. That's as coaches, that's as players. We work so hard at that Saturday night, Sunday, Monday, and get a great plan for the week to get better and to have a plan that we can execute and be successful with. There's some positive things from the game on Saturday. There has been every week. We need to build on those. There's mistakes. There's execution errors. There's things we can do better as coaches. We got to minimize that and get better there. I think a sign of development of a player is minimizing weaknesses, building on strengths. And we have to do that with our football team. To me, we keep searching for consistency, for complementary football that generally, is a path, a roadway to a win. And so that's what we have to keep working towards, because I think when we do put this all together, we can fall on the right side of things more often, than in the losing column. So, Pitt's going to be a great challenge. They're physical on defense. I coached against them for 4 years at my last stop, and they're physical. They're committed to the run game. They got good size. Coach has done a good job up there. So I think they're second in the league in sacks, second in the league in yards per game, some things like that. So, but you put the film on, and it's a good football team. But, we've got some guys we got to get healthy. That helps the whole equation. We got to be more disciplined with our penalties. We had some costly ones on Saturday, and we just got to keep getting better. We got to get our quarterback playing a little bit better. We got to run the ball a little bit better. We got to sustain blocks. We got to fit better. We got to tackle better. You're always working to get better. You're never going to be satisfied. But it's like I told the team. You put the film on, you see all the good, you see the mistakes, and you say, if we all just do a little bit here and do a little bit there, we're going to be the team that can win these games. So, but I'll take some questions from here.
I think a couple of weeks ago against Rutgers, it didn't look like Grant could have played even if he wanted to. Was he closer last week? And I know you have to see him this week, but do you think he'll have a chance this week? And what does that do to your quarterback situation?
Unfortunately, I would tell you I don't think he was much closer this week. There was some progress, but not enough to get excited about. I think he was a little bit better Sunday, pushed the envelope more. I think he was a little better Sunday. So today's a big day, I think, to see where he can get.
Is Pop back in the mix?
Pop is back. He's got some requirements that he has to do, but he's back in the locker room. He's back in the building. He's working his butt off. Started with us yesterday or Sunday, but he's got some things to do to earn trust back and respect, and he wants to do that. He's very committed to it, and so he'll certainly be out there.
When you have a chance to look at the film a day later or after the game, how do you look at that run-pass split and the way you guys are running the ball? Did you feel you got too far away from that? And how can you – do you feel like you can suggest that more in the headset, or what's the whole operation like?
Yeah, I think obviously you look at, at Basal's touches, whether the run game or the throw game, and you say, okay, we need to get him the ball more. He was productive on Saturday. I think I felt like we were running the ball well, and that we did get away from it. We talked about it at halftime. Let's get back to it. We need to do that. And to be honest, in the third quarter, we came back and tried to run the ball, and we weren't successful. But I think, you've heard me say it a number of times, we have to be committed to it. You look at Marshall's attack, I think there were 44 carries, 3 explosive runs, 2 of them big ones, a 60-plus, a 50-plus, and then there was a 25-yarder maybe. But they were committed to it, even though on 41 of those runs, they averaged less than 2.0 yards a carry. 41 of those runs, they didn't do much on. But you commit to it, and then all of a sudden he breaks one, then he breaks another, and it's the difference in the game. Obviously, we got to corral him better and make sure those runs aren't explosive touchdown runs, that they're 12, they're 15, maybe even they're 20, but he can't hit his head on the goalpost.
Brent, I think you played 6 linebackers against Marshall. What have you noticed in the linebacker rotation? Do you see a guy like George Balance or Jaden McDonald getting some more playing time there?
Yeah, I think what you see is we're still searching a little bit. There's a couple misfits on the explosives that, again, is going to happen on occasion. You're going to misfit a run, but it doesn't go 50 or 60. The perimeter, you have to close the space, and you have to keep it in front and inside, and you have to get it on the ground. We didn't do a good job of that. I'm never happy with misfits. We had the number 1 run defense in the country in 2019. There were misfits at times, but you get them on the ground, you line up, and you play again. So we got 2 areas there. We got to fit better. We got to still continue to work on tackling, even though I think it's improved. But you got to keep things. You got things defensively. If the ball gets outside or behind, it's never good.
When you look back at some of those misfits, do you see guys maybe trying to make a play and going to the wrong lane, or is it now a teachable moment of stay in your gap, be responsible, and let your teammates make the play?
Yeah, I think it's some of both. Generally, you guard against constricting a guy so much from making plays and trusting instincts, but you got to play in the framework. 1,001, 1,002, then let those instincts take over. We're still a work in progress there, obviously. I think there's improvement in our run defense, but we're not where we need to be.
Cole Beck qualified for the Pan Am Games, the 100. Have you had a chance to talk to him about that, whether he would be able to take a leave of absence from the team, go represent Team USA?
Yeah, I've told him we support him with whatever decision he would make in that regard. Obviously, we want him back with us, and he's getting healthier. He's transitioning back. I don't know if he'll be available this week, possibly. And if not this week, maybe the next. But we're going to support him whichever direction he decides to go.
At this point, with 2 games under his belt, what have you seen from Kyron? What areas do you think he needs to improve on? Overall, how would you assess that? And would you put him ahead of Grant at this point, or would you still kind of have that as like a pretty close competition?
Yeah, I think so. Grant was playing awful well before he got hurt. He was throwing the ball well, and we had a nice second quarter there. He gets dinged up, and it looks different from then on. But, Kyron did some great things on Saturday, not just with his feet, but he threw some nice balls. He made some good decisions. I think that there's some things with his reads that we can help him with as coaches to clean that up, and then he has to make some better decisions, within that framework. So there's certainly room for improvement, but I was excited about, kind of the platform, the potential that Kyron can bring to our offense.
Brent, 2 straight road games, and then obviously the last home game was impacted by the rain. Is there an element of being back in a traditional home environment that can energize this group?
Yeah, I think for a young team, you're always looking for, consistency, continuity, a comfort level in your schedule and what you do. And, so to get into a rhythm a little bit and is always helpful for guys. But, to be staying in town and to have a home crowd and a sellout, and that's awesome for everybody involved with our program.
Let's go David and then Ryan.
You talked about how you've met Narduzzi and Pitt a bunch over the years. What stands out to you when you watch Pitt on film, specifically their physicality?
Yeah, they are physical. They don't do a whole lot. They're pretty simple. I think everybody in the business kind of knows they're a little bit like Iowa that way. This is what they are defensively. This is who they are. They're not going to change, but they're going to be very good at what they do. And that's complemented by a commitment to the run game, and just staying on schedule and playing complementary ball. I think he's done a nice job there. He does a nice job recruiting, and despite a couple of injuries that they have, they're bringing a good football team in here.
You guys entered that Marshall game. You had not had a run of more than 20 yards, and you had 4 of them in that game. What was different? What did you like, what you saw in the run game? I know maybe you could have gone to it more, but what did you like that you hope to carry over this week?
Yeah, I think obviously Kyron's ability to pull the ball. I think Kyron's ability to, make something out of nothing. That's a positive. I think, Bayshaw on the perimeter, Bayshaw up inside. We blocked up their odd front pretty well at times, and Bayshaw was able to kind of run through and gain a positive play, an explosive run. But I think mixing it up, we worked a reverse in. It wasn't an explosive play, but it was a positive play. I think we got to continue to work a little bit sideline to sideline, make people defend a lot. That's the balance. Is you want it to be complicated for them, particularly a defense like Pitt, but you also want to build on some things that you did well, find some consistency and some things where you can continue to improve.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? Good to see you. Just a quick question in terms of as you head into Saturday's contest. What are the little things? Or is it about fixing the little things in practice, or is it more about the bigger picture or building towards that?
Yeah, I think it's a belief in the details sometimes. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way that these things are important. And if we do them, they will make the difference. It may seem small in that moment, but over the course of a game, they matter. I look at for instance, with our penalties. I mean, all 5 defensive penalties were on third down, critical down. The offensive penalties, 2 of those. One was on third down and one was on fourth down in a critical situation. 2 of the 2 special team penalties, one of them was late in the fourth quarter, negated a nice return by Tucker. So, are we pressing? Are we trying too hard, out of our comfort zone in those moments, in those big moments? Because everybody out there, nobody wants to get flagged for a penalty. They're all doing their absolute best. So it's our job as coaches to kind of reel it back and say, listen, there's a pattern there. And so let's talk about it and let's get to the bottom of it. But I think details and communication and, that is the art of winning. Mastering those things and having a team that understands those things, believes in those things, that's our job as coaches. And we have to do better there. We have to keep investing there. Those are the differences in the teams and units that I've seen that are really good and the teams that are just below that line that can't quite get over the hump. And, there's good signs all over our film. And the weaknesses that are there, a lot of them are correctable. Some of it's youth, some of it's injury, but a lot of it's very correctable.
Middle of the room, Joe, and then Damien.
Does your defensive plan change if Phil Jerkovic doesn't play and Christian Vayu comes in? Because Phil Jerkovic took quite a lick in the North Carolina game, and I know that Pat Narduzzi earlier said that he's iffy against you guys. So does the defensive plan change, or are the 2 quarterbacks similar enough that you can kind of get away with maybe having that same defensive plan?
Yeah, I think they're very similar in what they would bring to the position outside of the fact that Vayu doesn't have near the experience. And obviously I know Christian from our time at Penn State, and he's a talented guy. He can run. He's got a strong arm. He was one of the guys on our list as we were looking out in the portal months ago. And, Jerkovic just has such good experiences. And I think, that would be the difference there when you look at a young, inexperienced guy defending him versus a guy that has seen much more.
Jalen Jones and Braylon Moore didn't play in the second half against Marshall. How are they doing?
Both questionable.
How did Jalen Lane look when you got him out there for the amount of plays you had?
About 85%.
do you expect him to keep getting better, and do you want to stay cautious with him knowing how valuable he is to the offense?
Yeah, again, we talked about it in a staff meeting this morning. We've got several guys in that mode where they need the reps to continue to improve and to operate the game plan and be able to fit where they need and hatch in the right place. But at the same time, you don't want a setback. That's Jalen Stroman. There's a bunch of guys like that. So we got to be smart about that as coaches.
How big of a loss is Matt Gonzalez for Pitt on the offensive line?
He's a really good offensive lineman, one of the best in the league. They've got some good guys, some big guys that can step up. I think they've always recruited and invested in the offensive line. But he's a really good player.
Let's go Eric in the back of the room. They'll go Andy and then Zoom. Coach, you talked about the details is what can lead to some wins. You mentioned after Saturday's game, you guys switched up the pregame routine a little bit. Was that more to get them mentally fit as opposed to physically fit?
Yeah, it was just we did some things different on Friday, and then we did some things different on Saturday. And part of that was just, we needed to be more intent in pregame. We needed to be a little bit more, we needed to operate with more intensity, get our pads smacking a little bit better, run the routes a little bit harder, just get yourself game ready as coaches and players. And I thought we did a better job of that, and I think it contributed to us starting faster.
Feldaria showed up a couple times on Saturday. Has he earned more playing time? Are you starting to see the guy that he was when you recruited him before the injury?
Yes, sir. Good question. And I do think he's earned more playing time. He's a guy that, he's got a lot of age on him. He's been through a lot. He's very hungry. He's quick. He's talented. So I think you'll see more of Zero out there, yeah.
All right, let's go to Zoom for a couple.
On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to ask questions for Coach Pry, and we'll open with Mike Barber, please.
Hey, Brent, I wanted to ask you, for a long time, the model in college football was to have a kid come in at quarterback, sit a year or two, and then start for 2 or 3 years. With the transfer portal, with everything else out there, is that a thing of the past, or is that still kind of the goal as a coaching staff?
I think most people have gone to the model you're talking about. I think everybody will at least have some feelers in the portal for quarterbacks. If you don't have an incumbent that had a lot of success and that you're super excited about and confident in, you're going to see what's available. I think that's more and more the way this thing will go.
There are obviously so many elements to building a program that you feel good about, but it does seem that coaches that get that quarterback position solidified have a better chance to succeed. How important do you think kind of the long-term succession plan there is to building a program?
I think that's very important. I think that guy touches the ball each and every snap. He's got to have good supporting pieces around him, but it just makes the road a lot tougher if that guy's not playing winning football.
And the last thing for me, you are a guy with a defensive background, so in terms of kind of developing quarterbacks and your vision of how it would work in your program, is it just your staff, or have you relied on other guys for maybe some input on that topic?
Yeah, we certainly, being a defensive guy, I'm going to listen to people I respect in the business as well as our current staff. I think you're always learning as a coach. That never stops. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I know as much about offense and quarterback play as I do about defense. And so you got to reach out. You got to ask the questions. You got to keep getting better there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can we go to David Teal next, please?
Brent, you used the phrase mastering the art of winning. How long of a process, in your experience, is that?
Yeah, I think it does take some time. When I think about it, it's not just correcting a mistake in a game. It's them gaining the understanding of how to do it better, how to practice it better, so that it just becomes part of your toolbox. That's who you are as a player. You've put that piece of learning to rest. You know it now, and we can count that's going to be part of who you are as a player. I think you're always constantly trying to have guys master their craft. And that's what creates the ability to put 11 out there that can play together and minimize mistakes and minimize explosives. And so it takes time. When I think about even the defense in 2019 at Penn State, there was a bunch of guys that had been in that system for 3 and 4 years. And we're operating at a high level. We're coaching young guys. So it takes time. I think it's not an overnight success. It's not a week by week success. You're always looking for immediate improvement, but big picture wise, for the type of program we want to have, it's going to take a little time.
Are there telltale signs that you can see either in a practice or a game that tells you, yes, this group or this individual is getting it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's things you see in players that the light just comes on for them, and they understand why it needs to look this way. They understand what you're telling them, that it makes sense finally. I think sometimes, we have to be careful that we're not doing that here. That's something I'm really looking at closely, that you can't take 100 level learning and try and teach 300 and 400 level. It just doesn't make enough sense often enough. You have to go back and you have to gradually give the players the ability to grow and develop and be better. You get the cart in front of the horse and you're not going to like what you get. So, but there's signs to me of an improved program in a lot of areas. And I don't necessarily look at the scoreboard, at the stats. I know that's important, and ultimately we have to win games. But where are we getting better? Is it identifiable? We have to be honest with ourselves as coaches, each and every Sunday, what this looks like. And where are we stagnant? Have we gotten worse in an area? Where are we better? What are the signs of improvement individually and as units? And, that's my job as a head coach, to make sure that we're looking at all that and that we're honest about where we're at with things.
Any final questions on Zoom for Coach Pry? All right, Travis.
Anything else in the room for Coach? Thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks, everybody.